Thank you so much for staying with Sunrise. Three of the country's most recognizable voices have united their advocacy efforts to find solutions to Jamaica's epidemic of violence, particularly among women and girls, with the Elevate Her Summit that seeks solutions for abused women and girls in Jamaica. National Summit is scheduled for May 31, 2023. We welcome co-convener of Elevate Her Summit, Patricia Duncan Sutherland, to share more. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise.
Good morning, and it's great to be here, as usual.
It's great to have you as well, because this is a very, it's not just timely, but it's relevant.
Yes.
Very relevant. And when we look at the numbers, it's quite alarming. A large number of women suffer intimate partner violence, and there's a large a percentage that suffer violence from non-partners.
Yes.
And then you have our young girls
suffering from sexual abuse.
Absolutely, even abuse in the homes.
Well, sexual abuse mostly takes place in the home, you know,
right.
And mostly from persons who you know very well. I mean, we recently had a case of the 7-year-old girl who was raped and hospitalized. We had the case just before that in Hanover of another young girl who on her way from school.
Yes.
And that's alleged to be a family member.
Right.
I myself suffered from sexual abuse from family members, an uncle and a granduncle. So it is more prevalent than we think in Jamaica, the sexual abuse of young girls.
Yes. And so let's talk a little bit about what will happen at this particular summit. Well,
so it is, you know, I was just talking to one of your presenters here. It's where we are going to create the space so we can live in the solution. We can create the solution to this in Jamaica. When 30% of your women suffer from domestic violence, then you know we have a real problem, a cultural issue in the country. So we can't come to it from the perspective of we need more laws to lock up the men. We have to come from the perspective of we need a way to create more healthy relationships between men and women, and for men in Jamaica to see women as partners rather than see them with such aggression.
Yeah, and we're not saying that stricter legislations will not work.
No, legislation will definitely support, but it can't support without a shift in the country, in the mindset of the
consciousness,
people.
Yes.
Yes. So, you know, we're going under the theme, speak up, because it first has to start with the conversation.
Absolutely.
And you have to be brave enough to even say it is occurring. It is still hush-hush in Jamaica to say that you are abused, either sexually or physically or emotionally. And then you have the issue of, so we started speak up, stand up. If we don't stand up together, if we are not able to show support for each other, or to even have that space where persons who are currently experiencing the violence can come to, then it doesn't give that space for healing. And then we have to show up.
And that's a critical part of the conversation, healing process. Many people don't understand that.
It's actually the most critical part. This conference is about creating the healing of a nation. We need to heal as a country. We need to change the way a woman and a man relate to each other. We need to change the way we see our children. We need to become more nurturing and a more gentle country.
Yes.
And it starts with a conversation.
Yes. How can we foster this through education after this particular conference in terms of ensuring that our youngsters, our children, understand?
Well, so what the output of this conference we expect is to be an action plan as to what we need to do as a country to change the mindset, to strengthen our laws and to strengthen our advocacy. And part of that will include the schools. So we've invited guidance counselors from schools, we've invited students from schools, we have students from UE, and then we have general public, and we have persons who work in the space from the Ministry of Gender and Culture and Gender.
Yes.
All the sports. Yes, I don't remember the full name.
Right, Culture, Gender, and Sport, yes.
And we have all other practitioners. Joy Crawford is a co-convener. She's E4Life. She's worked in the space for a long time, so has the connections. You have Nadine Spence, who has studied the space and worked in the space and currently works in the children's home, so really understands the issues in the sexual abuse. Then we have Owen Blacker Ellis, who is working also from a different perspective of how the healing can come for the men. So it's how we all come together to create that space, and we have to be so grateful because we have some great sponsors.
I'm smiling because oftentimes the conversation is had without men.
Yes.
And they play a critical role in the solution.
That is true.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is I don't expect very many men to be in attendance at this conference, but I expect that one of the action items will come out as to what we need to do in the schools, but also will come out as to how are we going to engage men more actively in this conversation. So, and I expect that we should have an advocacy stream as well. So it's about how we engage all of the different elements of the community: church, school, community, the healthcare system, all of the different elements of our community to come together to find the right solutions. You know, it's an all of Jamaica approach. We are also hoping that all of the politicians on both sides will also come on board because they are a strong voice. And it's important for all of the voices to be present
part of the solution as well.
when we are creating the solution.
It's interesting that this is happening at this time because this particular challenge was compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic.
For sure.
The women and the girls were at home.
Yes. And interestingly, it was an interesting thing when we were preparing for this summit. Joy pointed out that a lot of the men, when they were at home, also began to realize the impact they were having, and some of them came for counseling because they didn't realize, because when you beat a woman and you leave her, you're gone out her road, you're not seeing how it's impacting the woman at home, you're not seeing how it's impacting your children. So being at home actually gave them some insight as to how negative their behavior
really is.
The negative impact of their behavior on their family. So there were some positive, but there were mostly negatives out of it because there was more frustration in the home.
Yes. But how is this, when you look at the inequality in the labor market, is this a contributing factor to?
Oh, for sure. There is a lot of data around the fact that because many women miss work because of intimate partner violence.
Absolutely.
And so it reduces their ability to contribute. And it also then reduces their employability. Because if you employ a woman and then she comes to work and she then begins to miss work because of illness or because she has to go to the hospital, then you then want to terminate.
Yes.
So it really has a very negative impact on our GDP. There's a number, and I can't remember it, worldwide number, the impact of intimate partner violence on GDP. I'm going to look it up. Look it up on the UN website, everybody, if you're watching. It's there.
Absolutely.
And we also have to acknowledge that in Jamaica, we have the UN Spotlight Initiative.
Yes.
That is occurring.
Yes.
This is not about how are we going to replace all of what's occurring, but how it is that we as a country can have a greater contribution to what is already occurring, make it more effective, strengthen it, and see what else is missing.
And that initiative is coming out of a 2016 study that was done. Mrs. Duncan Sutherland, talk to us about the cost to attend and how can people register?
Well, the cost to attend is free, and we have to say thank you because we can make it free because we have sponsors in the GMMB Joan Duncan Foundation, our headline sponsor. Thank you all very much. I have some links. And also we have the Sagicor Jamaica Limited coming in as a gold sponsor. We have Mussons Jamaica, Lasco, and iPrint. So I want to say thank you all very much for coming on board and for contributing to this because of you, anybody who wants to be a part of the solution can show up to this conference so that we can start the conversation and so that we can create that action plan. And we look forward to November International Day to End Violence Against
Absolutely.
Women,
Yes.
and we always add children,
Yeah.
and that we will then be able to do our check-in on the results of this conference.
Absolutely. And it takes place at the Chinese Benevolent.
Chinese Benevolent, and we start at 10 o'clock on May 31st. If you want to register, pre-register, please go to Elevate Her Jamaica. Just look up Elevate Her Jamaica on any of your social media. The handle is actually Elevate Her JA. But you can, once you put it Elevate Her Summit, right, you will get the ability to register.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
we look forward to having anybody who wants to be a part of the solution.
Right.
You know, I have to quote my brother here. You know, we did a leadership thing at JMB, and his quote was, you know, let's live in the solution, not the problem.
There you go. And it works if you work it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Duncan Sutherland, for talking to us this morning. Wish you well.
Thank you.
It's really nice that we need to have or continue to have this conversation to impact the women of our nation and our young girls in this great nation called Jamaica. News is at the top of the hour. Stay with us. We'll be right back.